20th of December, Rabbi Levitt being substituted by Chaim Sender, Pele Yoetz.
Okay, Tov.
Okay, or
How you doing?
Baruch Hashem.
As far as I know, today is the last day of my substituting. Rabbi Levitt will be back tomorrow, to the best of my knowledge.
Have you heard from him?
I have not.
'Cause I'm just wondering, I know that there's a lot going on with the airports being closed.
Right.
I guess we'll have to stay tuned as to what happens.
All right. If anything changes, let me know.
Yeah, they're banning flights as of Tuesday to America.
What, they're delaying?
Banning.
They're banning as of Tuesday? What
Yeah.
about from America to here?
Ban travel to US and Canada. Yeah.
I'd imagine they're letting Israeli citizens back in, but the flights have to go to America in order to bring people back. It's a complicated matter. I don't know anything about his plans, but
Including United States, Canada, Italy, Belgium, Germany, Hungary, Morocco, Turkey, Portugal, and Switzerland.
wait.
Well, they have to bring it before the Knesset for final approval.
All right, we have to dive in for Kibbutz Golios. You can't take it for granted once like we did. I know my parents are waiting to visit me, and they haven't been able to for quite a few months now.
Wow.
We'll hope for the best.
The saying travelers home to Israel from countries on the red list required to quarantine for 2 weeks, regardless of vaccination status. So maybe you'll let flights back in. I guess returning travelers who do not have proof of vaccination or recovery are required to remain in a government-managed COVID center until they receive a negative PR test. And you go home for the remainder. Oh, well, whatever it is, it is. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Tough time.
Very good. We'll keep diving. I guess let's begin.
Keep davening and keep learning.
Right. All right. So we're in Pele Yoetz in the topic of speech. I believe we are up to page 174. It looks like now with the section that we just read at the end yesterday, we began a whole new section. He's beginning those aspects of speech which are prohibited. And he starts with types of speech that can harm our mitzvahs. He said we will begin first with the category of mitzvah. We already talked about mitzvahs that we do with our speech. Now we're talking about how a person can get sidetracked and with his speech undo or harm the mitzvah which he's trying to do. We spoke yesterday about Torah study, that sins with the mouth. I think the Chavetz Chaim speaks about this in the introduction also, if I'm not mistaken, that if a person has on his track record sins involving speech with his mouth, so then that harms the Torah and the Tefillah that he might do with his mouth afterwards. The idea, the advice for the Pele Yoetz that he gives is before Torah study to express thoughts of tshuva. And then that will allow him to approach Torah with a clean slate. All right, so once again, that's the topic. We're talking about things which, sins with the mouth, which can harm our mitzvot, such as Torah study. So if I'm not mistaken, in the Hebrew edition, we're up to page 174, the second paragraph, a person who interrupts. In the Hebrew, it's the paragraph Hamafsik Mishnah so. In my printing, it's on Kufya Daled. Okay, who's up first?
I will do it.
Was someone.
I'll do it.
You lost somebody? All right. The Chavod.
Rabbi, I'll do it.
Great, take it away.
Okay, a person who interrupts his learning and says, how beautiful is this tree, is obligated for his life and is fed burning coals after death. From Pirkei Avot 3:7. Sefer HaChasidim wrote that a person who interrupts his learning and speaks idle chatter or looks at women is punished for his learning as well. It is pity that there are people who are not careful in this matter and will inherit two Gehennas. Heaven save us. Therefore, a person must be very careful, especially if he said before his learning, for the sake of the unity of the Holy One, blessed He, and His presence. His carelessness will be like a powerful axe and separates rather than unites. If he needs to talk, he should close the book as if he finished his learning and afterwards start learning again. Perhaps by doing this, it would be a remedy and he would be untainted by sin.
Wow. All right, so we see how momentous our Torah learning is. You know, interrupting is not a simple matter. I always, I had trouble understanding this Mishnah. There is a mitzvah, of bechina, of admiring Hashem's creation, right? The Chavos Halavavos has a whole section called Shara Bechina, but I guess we're saying not while you're learning. Learning takes precedence.
A quick question. How does one inherit two Gehennoms? Does he get out and then he goes back in?
That's a good question. I think what he means is it's not just one strike against him, but two. One for interrupting and one for the learning. The learning becomes a negative learning. Ne'anash gam al halimud.
Okay.
Okay. If
So
only
how do
we
you-
could be
how
on-
do you
we
deal
could be
with,
on the subject. Yes.
How do you deal with somebody who comes and asks for tzedakah when you're in the middle of your shiur?
That's a halachic question. In general, osik b'mitzvah, poter min mitzvah does not apply to Torah learning. If I was in the middle of Kriyat Shema, I'm doing a mitzvah, so I'm exempt from another mitzvah that comes my way. Halachically, we're not obligated to multitask. Torah learning is an exception. That the purpose of Torah learning is to act, to perform the mitzvot. If a person would say, I'm learning and I'm not going to do any other mitzvot, so that he would never do any mitzvot, Torah would be theoretical. In theory, one would give tzedakah, one would have to interrupt. The only question is, if you're giving the shiur, it's interrupting Talmud Torah of the whole group, not just of yourself. It's really a halacha question, and Hilchos Talmud Torah probably discusses it. But in general, learning Torah is not an exemption from mitzvot that are upon you to do. If others can do them, then great. But usually, when a person collects tzedakah, he needs a little bit from everybody. In that case, that this won't exempt him. All right, let's carry on with the next paragraph. Lou, would you like to read?
The Torah is called the elixir of life, the tree of life to those who study it, for its own sake, and the elixir of death to those who study it for ulterior motives. The Torah is compared to a ruler who has the power of over life and death. So too, the Torah has the power to give life and cause death or cause death. For example, it is better for someone who learns in order to ridicule or arrogate that he
Be arrogant. Yeah.
that he not have been created. Guilty of this sin are Torah scholars who injure each other with halacha and speak or write words of mockery against one another. Great is the prosecution and hatred between Torah scholars. If the flame of controversy has fallen among cedars, metaphor for great men, what shall the moss upon the wall, reference to common people, do? The person who desires life should engage in Torah study for its own sake, be God-fearing, admit the truth, accept the truth from whoever said it, not be argumentative or turn to vanity and deception in order to support his opinion with forced answers, not say, accept my position, even when it appears to him that the truth is on his side, not engage in debate in order to disprove his friend's words. He should say his opinion once and not repeat it. And when he speaks his words, even if his friend argues with him, he should respond with soft speech, love and warmth, and lower himself even before a man who is less than he, as a student who discourses in the presence of his teacher. Behold, our sages noted on the verse, small and great are equal there. Whoever diminishes himself relative to the words of Torah will be great in the world to come. By offering his cheek to be slapped by his opponent, he will satiate his attacker with shame. So that seems to contradict what we see occasionally in the Gemara, where one rabbi will severely criticize, even ridicule another. He'll say, like, you must have been sleeping when you made this statement. That's a mild example.
Right.
I never understood why they do that. This seems to say it's not proper.
Look, on the other hand, Torah study is a war. Al-Kain Ye'omar B'Sefer Milchamos Hashem. The book of the wars of Hashem. We're supposed to, if Torah is your life, so you argue about it until the very last straw. Look, I think that what he said was, you have to be very careful in front of other people. If there are people present who are not Torah scholars, they'll get the wrong message. In the yeshiva, so then that's what we're there for. Let's say the rabbi is giving a drasha on Shabbos, and the whole community is there, both the learned and the unlearned. In America, you would never ask questions on the rabbi's drasha. Here, it's a little bit more acceptable, to interrupt with questions. But you have to be careful. It could end up backfiring when those that are there might learn either that it's okay to quarrel or to diminish of the honor of the rabbi who is giving a drasha. Either of which is a very dangerous path to take. Look, there are different approaches. I think the Chavetz Chaim quotes a tshuva of the Chavetz Yoyer. The Chavetz Yoyer is one of the Achronim. He tries to explain away all the places in the Gemara which seem like biting insults. To explain really there was a deeper meaning, and he was alluding to his opponent's strengths rather than his weaknesses. Okay, I guess it's a mitzvah to explain these away. It's certainly not the literal explanation of these Gemaras, but there are alternative explanations. Okay, so what's the red line? What can't we cross? If we're arguing for, what does it say here? Either to ridicule or to be arrogant. You know,
Sorry, I think that word where is that word? That word is arrogate. That is the word.
okay. What does it mean?
I'm not too sure, but I think it means that if you want to apply something to somebody or to something, you want to prefer something to somebody.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could look it up in a dictionary, but you got it there. Yeah. Isn't the phrase here "admit the truth"? It's one of these. It's one of the phrases in our morning in the tefillah in the morning.
Right.
The definition of arrogate is to take or claim something without justification.
Oh, right.
I wonder if it's an accurate translation. The word that I see here in the Hebrew is lekanter ulahis yaher. Yuhara is like false airs, false arrogance. For instance, what would be an example of yuhara? If you're in a tzibur where nobody's putting the talis over their head and you have to be the only one, like, I'm the biggest tzaddik in this minyan, I have to put the talis over my head. So then that would be yuhara or merzik ki yuhara. It looks like arrogance.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that could be what's intended here.
So he looks like he spelled it incorrectly, but the incorrect spelling was an actual word as well,
Okay.
or something like that, maybe.
So you're saying it means to elevate yourself above somebody?
If that's your intention in debating Torah, that's invalid, right? That's not a valid machlokas over Torah. It can't be about yourself. It has to be about finding the truth. Once it's about yourself, you're not gonna, even if the other person has the correct side, you're never gonna admit to the truth.
But even in that case, you could make an argument that if you're in a group and there is a constant lack of respect being showed to you for your opinion, and they are coming to the wrong conclusion occasionally or frequently because they're not listening to you, then it could be that you need to teach them that you know what you're talking about.
That's a hard situation to be in. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. Okay, so how would you approach that? How would you change such a situation?
I would make a point of saying, this is the right thing, and you guys said it was wrong, and you were wrong. It is the right thing, what I said.
It is difficult. I might say something like, although it wouldn't help either, I might say something, look, if you want to believe that or you think that's correct, fine, you believe that, but I'm pointing out to you what really is the right way. And if you want to believe that, believe it, and that's going to lead you astray and you're not going to be able to come to good conclusions.
I'm talking about a different example, Roy. I'm talking about, let's say 3 days ago, we were discussing something a page behind where we are now. And I stated an opinion about something, and I was overruled by the group. And now we're learning something further on that vindicates my position.
Mhm.
And I want to say, by the way, you remember 3 days ago on DAF whatever, when you said XYZ? Well, now we see you were wrong. It's not XYZ, just like I said. It's ABC. And we see now, because we're learning something else, we see that I was right.
That would be arrogant, I think, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the point, that
Seems
I'm
to be
saying that
you-
if I'm doing it for the purpose that they should realize that I know what I'm talking about, and they should listen to me, because they're frequently not doing that,
Mm,
then it's worthwhile to do.
mm,
You can still judge the words that you use. You can say, let's return to the issue. Remember we discussed this 3 days ago? Doesn't this show that A, B, and C?
You could-
Without
you could-
emphasis.
yeah,
Hopefully they'll remember that it was you that advanced that position.
mm. That's right. You could, yeah, you're kind of right. You could refer to the argument without calling the names of those who were arguing. Just refer to the actual argument itself.
Not if you want to make the point that they're devaluating your opinion.
Mm. Well, maybe you could put it a bit more softly and say, yeah, I think that's the one that the opinion that I held. I think that's right, isn't it? No, we held it. You were wrong.
All right. Some people, it's hard to change. We can only try our best. Take a look again at this last sentence. Right? By offering his cheek to be slapped by his opponent, he will satiate his attacker with shame. Meaning, in the face of somebody who is modest and humble, the one who is more aggressive eventually has to back down. Eventually, he'll be embarrassed of his conduct. Yeah. Again, we're after truth. If you feel you have something to author, that's the truth. Don't hold it back. You got to say it. But the way you should say it is humbly. Say it once, don't force it. And eventually you have to hope that the people who are learning with you are also being, honest and after the truth, and they'll come to realize the value in what you're saying. If not, then, there'll always be another occasion.
Mm.
Okay, let's continue. Mayor, would you like to read next?
Okay. Says the upright path that every author should choose is to write his opinion without disproving the words of someone else, unless there is a definitive halachic implication, in which case he should disprove his proofs tangentially. Just at the end, he should write, look in such and such a book, and let the reader choose. In regards to matters of homiletical interpretation, let him say, we agree, whether it is good or bad. What difference does it really make? Especially in the presence of common people, Torah scholars need to be very cautious to treat each other with respect, both in speech and action. If one sees that his friend, who is worried about imagery honor, will be angered severely by his being disproved in the presence of others, one should give up the debate so that it appears that his friend has won. He will receive a reward for his apparent capitulation. When there is harmony between them, he should teach in his position and reveal his full opinion. These are just a few of the proper ways for Torah sages to conduct themselves in order that their Torah be desired. Wow, okay.
If you disagree with someone, better to do it one-on-one when it's only you and him. All right, I think we've probably seen many examples of this, you know, with the disagreements between approaches or communities is more often from the followers than from the leaders. You know, the Torah leaders among themselves treat each other with great respect. You know, it's the problem with the followers sometimes take it and make it personal and pretend like there's a big machlokas between different camps. You know, this is my team and this is your team, and we don't you know, we don't value you, we don't respect you. The Mishnah in Avos says machlokas l'shem shamayim is machlokas Hillel v'Shamai. I mean, Hillel v'Shamai themselves had a few disagreements in halacha, but that was lishma. It doesn't say machlokas Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, because once it came to the Talmidim, already there was a little bit of a personal element involved. It was no longer truly l'shem shamayim.
Mm.
Even though the Mishnah in Yevamos says that they would each inform each other of the other's opinion, that the families from Beis Hillel would marry into Beis Shammai and Beis Shammai would marry into Beis Hillel, even though there was sometimes different opinions about Yibum, who was a valid marriage partner and who wasn't. They relied on each other to inform them which ones they could and could not marry. Implicit trust, you know, it was known they wouldn't you wouldn't give somebody something that they hold as author. So that was the degree of respect that they had, not just for each other, but even for each other's opinion. And you know, if only we should do that nowadays, we'd be in very good shape. The picture of bowing, the Gemara in Yevamos also said bowing kitchen utensils from a neighbor. How many? I'm not holding in Seder Tyros. How many times must we have machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? There's a certain utensil, tamei or tohar, right? They would borrow kitchen utensils from one another without asking questions, completely relying that, you know, if my neighbor knew that this this spoon, this mixing bowl was tamei, you know, he would tell me. He wouldn't just give it to me, you know. And first of all, it shows how much of a Talmid Chacham the average housewife was, that they knew how to keep track not just of their own opinion, but of the neighbor's opinion. But it also shows how much they valued each other's opinion. Right, that's what we're aiming for. Any thoughts?
How would two people deal with the concept of kashrut? Because sometimes people have different strictnesses that others don't. Could you still, if you get invited for Shabbos, for example, still go over and eat at their house? Or
That's an important question, especially this year during Shemitah, when many of us have opposite opinions. And each situation might be cause for a separate question. What I've heard from an Adam Gadol is, when it comes to family, you know, close your eyes, don't read the labels. You know, you have to maintaining relationships with families is very important.
mm-hmm.
If it's an optional invite, you should make a person aware what you hold. You know, you should say politely, I'd love to join you for Shabbos. You know, you should be aware that I try to be careful about this and this, you know, and hopefully they'll be able to accommodate you. If they don't know, then you run into trouble. But, you know, if it's early enough in the week, and let's say with a food allergy, you know, that happens a lot of times nowadays. You know, a person might tell the host, you know, I don't eat nuts. You know, I'm gluten free. So then they'll try to accommodate you. So about questions of kashrut, hopefully they should try to accommodate you also.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I actually attended a class in Shemitah where the rabbi discussed certain halachas about, what do you do if somebody holds differently from you in certain specific examples. Like if they hold Tenter Mechira and you don't, or whatever, and you have food, there's actually halachic parameters for what how you handle that situation.
Right. Okay. I guess each case is a question for a Rav, and it would depend whether you hold that it's actually usher or ideally should be avoided. You'd have to know what you'd have to know where you hold, and then you can act accordingly. All right, and that I'm not holding enough. It'll come up. The question will come up this year, Pesach Seder by Morar. Many of us are invited out for Leila Seder. Where do you get your lettuce? Where do you get your horseradish? This is vegetables. It's okay. I don't know. I guess you have to ask Rav ahead of time. What's the plan? Either you can bring your own, or let your host know. Can you have a little bit of this type of lettuce? I'd like to use that. Try your best. I think 7 years ago I was invited out to Seder. There was the host was planning on using one type of lettuce. I don't remember. I think it was Guvulot Ole Mitzrayim. How is it planted? They were relying on the Heter Mechira. I suggested maybe we can get Matzah Menutak. In the end, it worked. All right, it ended up working. It ended up working out. Some prefer Yevil Nafri. In many communities, it's got to be Heter Mechira. Why you get Yevil Nafri? How can you do something like that? You have to be sensitive to the other person's opinion and where they're coming from. But if you ask respectfully, hopefully they'll be able to accommodate you. All right. Shall we move on to the next topic? Now we're going to move on to tefillah. Again, we're in the section of speech talking about those aspects of forbidden speech that can harm our mitzvos. Until now, we were talking about types of speech that can harm our Torah study. We talked about interrupting one's learning, learning after having used our mouth for improper words. We talked about learning for the sake of machlokes, and the proper way to disagree about Torah matters. All right, now we're going to speak about tefillah. What aspects of speech could potentially harm the mitzvah of tefillah that we do with our mouths? Roy, maybe you'll lead a little bit.
In regards to the mitzvah of prayer, if a person prays when he is so drunk that he cannot speak before a king, Eruvin 64, right? Or when he needs to alleviate his bodily needs and brachos, his prayer is an abomination. He does not discharge his obligation.
What is the Hebrew word for abomination here?
To'eva.
Thank you.
His blessings are in vain, and instead of doing a mitzvah, it is considered a sin, like one who speaks contemptuously. Similarly, a person who speaks words of Torah, judgment, or mentions the name of Hashem in a bathhouse when naked, when a private part of the body is exposed, or in a place which is not clean of excrement, it is an abomination. Even if he is not so drunk or does not have such a great urge to alleviate his bodily needs, as long as he is just a little drunk or has a slight bodily need, even though he has discharged his obligations, he has committed a sin. The result is that he has done a mitzvah and a sin.
All right. This is the sort of question that is between us and Hashem. Nobody around us is going to know, whether we had a little bit too much to drink, or if we need to take care of our needs. Right? It's especially when we try to daven with a minion and we're running late to davening. It looks like the halacha is that making sure that one uses the restroom before davening takes precedence over anything. If one was going to miss the fast-paced minyan, which is about to start, so one misses it. That is not the davening while needing the restroom is not an option. Mariv after Purim is also a big challenge. If one fulfills getting drunk at the Purim Suda, so then when do you daven Mariv? I never understood that. I don't know. I think I'm past that stage in my life. I tell people I'm the designated driver on the stroller. Room. I don't drink too much at the Purim Suda anymore. How did I decide that? There was one year that I went to my brother for the Purim Suda, and we were walking home afterwards. I was walking behind my wife with the stroller, so I figured I'd do something funny. I stopped at the bus stop. I had a monthly bus pass. I waited, got on the bus with the stroller, got off 3 stops later. And then when my wife caught up, I said, "What took you so long?" Then I realized that probably wasn't a good idea to drive the stroller while under the influence. But in the end, it worked out okay. All right. That's the
I don't know.
you don't know. Right, okay. I'm not so proud of that escapade, but it was all right. And even when I did drink at the Purim Suda, I know that I'm in control. I'm able to bench properly because I'm also at the deraisa. I know I have to stop with enough time to I know if I stop with enough time in order to recover at some point in the evening to daven a proper mariv, and like it says here, being able to stand before the king, and I'm not the drinking on Purim is not for me anymore. Very often Purim comes on Friday, right? We have to get ready for Shabbos. It's not Shabbos takes precedence over any of the mitzvahs of Purim. So I remember looking for last year here in Telstone, Purim was on a Friday. The trying to look for a minyan for mincha was a little bit shaky. Most people daven mincha, early in the day, and then celebrated their Purim Suda, and it worked out that I couldn't do that. But in the end, we got a minyan of people who were able to daven mincha. I guess we'll have to leave Purim. We'll leave the topic of Purim for another time. But yes, it is the halacha that one who is intoxicated may not daven. What else comes up from this paragraph? Babies with diapers. The halacha is you don't. That's something for Lamaisa for our family. You don't have to check the diapers before you on the bench or make kiddush, but if you have to change them. It's you have to count 4 amos away from where the smell ends. So that's right. Sometimes a little bit inconvenient. You need to make a break in the proceedings in order to take care of the baby. So you're making a delay of game penalty, but yeah. You do have to stop, and then you would resume benching or kiddush where you left off. Look, I guess these are halachas we have to learn. Sometimes questions come up if a person is in a hospital overnight, let's say, and there is somebody who needs assistance in taking care of their needs, whether it's a bedpan or a catheter. There are differences in halacha between urine or excrement. I guess just to be aware that there are halachos about davening or saying brachos in such a situation, when it's permitted and when it's forbidden, and if the situation comes up, we know how to what we need to investigate. All right, should we move on to the next paragraph?
Okay.
Okay, who's up? Has everybody read? Okay,
No.
I read first.
Okay. So I guess I'll take the next paragraph.
Okay.
A person who speaks in the middle of prayer or the recitation of Shema, even in the middle of Pesukei Zimra, the reader's repetition of Shemona Esrei or Hallel, demonstrates that he does not have fear of a holy place. Similarly, a person who chatters, makes fun of others, acts with levity, or raises his voice in the synagogue displays the same lack of proper fear. I believe he's talking about even if there's no tefillah going on at the moment, just the fact that it's a synagogue. His punishment is very great, and as already has been mentioned. Right, so why does he mention it again? Because now he's talking about types of speech that could harm our mitzvot, that could harm our tefillah.
I think it also applies to the Torah reading.
Certainly.
Even during the breaks between the Torah reading.
It's a common problem, but yes, you're absolutely right. So you just have to get into the habit of not schmoozing in shul. I don't see it so much in Eretz Yisrael. I mean, at least the shuls that I've seen. In America, you're in the corporate world the whole week. You know, you're yearning to see a few fellow Jews, and suddenly you come to shul on Shabbos, and okay, here's my chevra. The urge, it's very difficult to hold back from talking to your friends in shul on Shabbos in America, because it's like a fish back in water. At least I'm around fellow Jews. Maybe that's part of the reason it's such a challenge. From what I've seen in Eretz Yisrael, it depends. It depends on the shul one chooses to daven at, but hopefully it's less of a challenge here to refrain from talking in shul.
So does that apply also, like after shul? Some shuls have kiddush. Maybe in like in Eretz Yisrael, I mean, in our shul, we have it in the exact same room that we daven in. So is there like a demarcation point where it's a shul and then it's a kiddush room?
I don't think so. If it's the exact same room, what did he mention? Chatter is making fun of others or acting with levity would be
Even that outside of shul,
inappropriate.
Yeah, even outside of shul, you shouldn't do that though, right? Making fun of others, I guess.
Yes, that is certainly true.
Yeah.
So
guess
inside of a shul, it's a double problem.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the issue is what they call chattering. If you're having kiddush and you're doing what's called schmoozing, is that chattering?
That's a good question. Give me a moment. Let me see what the Hebrew word is.
That's a good point.
The Hebrew word he uses is simply hamedaber, one who speaks.
Wow.
All right, we'd have to look up the halachos. What sort of speech is permitted in the Beit HaKnesset. Mundane speech about work might be inappropriate. There might be speech that is appropriate. We said giving brachos to fellow Jews is in itself a mitzvah. That is permissible.
Tzedakah.
Once again,
Same problem as I brought up with learning. If somebody comes up to you and asks for tzedakah, they're interrupting your davening. They're annoying the people around you.
yes, it happens all the time. I don't think we should be so quick to judge them. Where else are they going to find you? Are you giving them an invitation? Here's my address. If you stop by my home later, I'll be happy to help you. Most of us are not doing that.
Well, they could be in the hallway outside the door when you enter and leave.
I see.
Yeah, we did that in America, where they were told, tzedakah collectors were told that you should wait till after shul before you can collect the tzedakah.
Don't they do that in the bells shul? I think.
Bells?
No?
Once again,
Yeah. think they do it down there.
Mhm. Could be.
In Tellstone, the Shulai Davin in the palace is they allow one who is collecting to circulate among the tzibur during the davening at appropriate places, but to speak, to give a pitch, to make a request, is only after davening is fully over, even after the
Right.
last kaddish.
Hmm.
In Queens, growing up, they used to have a sign: "Please don't go around and collect between Yishtabach and Chazaras Hashatz." That way, there was a
Mhm.
get at what time of the davening would be permissible and when what not. All right, we're weighing two different values here. Tzedakah is also very important. Well, it would be cruel to outright forbid collecting tzedakah in shul. I guess it's a job of the Rav of the shul to make a policy that works for both sides. Okay, let's move on. Okay, volunteers. The next paragraph is a man on page 176.
Okay, I guess I can read. A man who knows and is able to have proper intent, but who says prayers and blessings without it, the prayer or blessing is considered like a body without a soul. Even though he has satisfied his obligation and will receive a reward for his mitzvah, he will surely be punished for his recitation without intent, as is written in Yeshayahu. Because this people approaches me with its mouth and lips, honors me, but its heart is far from me, and its fear of me is like the mitzvah of men who act merely out of habit. Therefore, I will continue to act wondrously against this nation, wonders upon wonders. Heaven should save us. It is as if he spoke good things and bad things together. The good will be accepted, the bad will be rejected.
So the problem goes back to the time of Yeshayahu Hanavi.
Yeah. Wow.
This isn't the drasha. This looks like the literal meaning of the verse.
So
Okay.
So if the good's accepted, it says the very last statement, the good is accepted, the bad will be rejected. If the bad is rejected, I guess it's just a waste of, I'm trying to see what that means. It's a waste of words when you could be maybe saying good things. Maybe that's what it's saying. The bad will be rejected.
It could mean like what we said earlier, that it would, when we said earlier in the paragraph, one who prays with a minor need to use the facilities, it would be both a mitzvah and a sin. There are two aspects and they exist simultaneously. The fact that he prayed is good. So to here, the fact that he prayed is good. The fact that he prayed without kavanah is not so good, right? He gets reward for his mitzvah, that is accepted, but there's something seriously lacking. Both exist at the same time.
So that if you don't have kavanah, then that doesn't affect that you've prayed, that you've davened. So if you say the words and you're thinking of something else, you've davened. Well, from my point of view, that's comforting.
I think we all Everyone has challenge in this regard. Tefillah with kavanah is one of the hardest things. We should point out that in halacha, there are two exceptions, and that's the first verse of Kriyat Shema and the first bracha of Shemona Esrei. One really does need to have kavanah and think about what he's saying while he's saying it.
Hmm.
And nowadays, we don't repeat it because there's no guarantee we would do any better the second time than the first time. But
Right.
in essence, the letter of the law, kavanah is ma'akev. It does make or break the tefillah. For the very minimum of tefillah, the first paragraph of Shema and the first bracha of Shemona Esrei. All right. Hashem should assist us. This is Pele Yoetz, right? This is wondrous advice. I know I've gotten a lot of good advice over the course of the last few days, and I appreciate learning with you. And hopefully we'll meet in a few minutes for Baba Kama.
Yes.
Okay. While we're all together, does anybody know? Alan told me just a little while ago that the flights are being cancelled or something on Tuesday. What about Rabbi Levitt? That doesn't leave him stranded or what?
That's what we were wondering about. We're
Yes,
not sure.
Prove it later. They haven't, this will go through the Knesset first. So it would be tomorrow.
I read a news article that seemed to say that they're in the process of making the decision.
Yeah, it's in my tomorrow night.
When was he supposed to come back home?
He's supposed to be in class tomorrow, so that I would assume he's coming back now, today.
Oh, that should be
I
all
don't know
right.
for
then.
sure.
Okay.
All right.
If anything changes,
Okay.
let me know. Lou, do you have my phone number or email address? In case you need to contact me.
No, let me get it from you, please.
Okay. My home number is 02 679 6706.
02-679-6706.
Correct. And I'll give you an email address.
Yeah, please.
Okay, Sendic, SENDIC, and the digit 8, Sendic 8 at okmail. That's one word. okmail.co.il.
Okay, SENDIC 8 at okmail.co.il.
Correct.
All right, Emet Hashem, would you like me to put you on the mailing list?
Okay, sounds good.
You'll get the newsletter each week.
Okay, very
All
good.
right,
Happy to
I'll
be
put
part
you
of
on the
the
mailing list.
Summer Nafshi team.
And
And,
Emet Hashem,
be in
I
touch.
will contact you if we have a problem.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so we'll meet in a few
Okay.
minutes for
Very good.
Baba Kama.
All right, call
Have a
two.
good day, everyone.
You too, Mayor.
See you, Mayor. Bye.